What's going on, everybody? It's your man with the plan, Shane Man 20. Now, I know I'm a little bit late on saying this, but hopefully you guys all had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I know I did. I ate a lot of food, and I loved it. It was great. Also, it's Christmas in our house. Isn't it right, dog? That's right. It's Christmas time here at the house, and we're kind of gearing up more for the holidays now, and it's been a rush here lately, and especially for me at work, it's been quite busy to say the least. But I mean, I've been taking the little bit of time that I have off to try and get things together, get stuff lined up, and things like that. But there's also been some other neat stuff that's been going on since that time, and unfortunately I didn't document them as well as I was hoping. But, you know, I've done some things. I met some cool people. Vacuum leak.
I think it's a small one.
It's a small one. Sounds good, bub. Damn. in a Mexico pole or two. And got the chance to go to the racetrack for the last time this year, which oddly enough, it was a track that I'd never been to. I've always heard of, always known about it, but never had a chance to go to it. And that's a local track that's about an hour and a half, I think, the other way from me, which is Edgewater. A lot of you guys from Ohio know where Edgewater is, and that's the first time I'd ever been there. It's a nice little drag strip, kind of a quiet little place out in the middle of nowhere. It's not really out in the middle of nowhere, but it is a nice strip for what it is. Track prep looks a little questionable, but I don't know jack shit about track prep. All I know is what it looks like. So comparing it to what I only know, which whatever I've seen on TV, whatever I've seen on YouTube, whatever I've seen in person at Indianapolis, Indy's track prep is what it is. But the one thing I did notice about Edgewater is that people move through those lines very quickly. But without any further digression, I just wanted to let you guys know, get you guys some details going on, give you guys some updates. First things first on updates, the truck has passed 75,000 miles, coming up on 76 now. Still very reliable, still holding in there just fine. I really have no complaints yet, so it hasn't tried to blow up or it hasn't tried to die on me yet, so I can't complain yet. A couple other updates, one of which is a new modification coming in very soon for Christmas, and when it gets here I might reveal what the box says. I don't know if the box will say anything or not. I guess we'll just have to see. But in either case, I will show you that when it gets here. Probably going to be sometime next week. But I'm in no hurry to pump out content right now, just because it is that time of the year and I'm focused more on the holiday season more so than I am anything else. It's just how I am. So anyways, there's also that to consider, and there's one other thing that I really want to show you guys, just to kind of give you a really, really big teaser. So let's go see it. Alright, so I don't want to give anything away right now, just because I know you're going to see this box and you're going to think, wait a minute, he bought something from Texas Speed. No, it just so happens that the box that I got them in, the guy that I bought these from just so happened to have those set of heads that he put on his truck, and I bought his stock heads. So these are actually stock heads, completely assembled, so all the springs, the valves, everything is still there. And I took them out of the box just to make sure that they were alright, you know, checked them over, looked them over, made sure they were alright, nothing damaged, no cracks, no, you know, unnecessary things that we didn't need. But either way, I've got those set of heads and then the other sets over there. But in any case, to have them shipped to me and all that stuff, to buy them shipped, it was $300. Not going to complain about that. So that's a nice start to the overall build of the truck. Hopefully that's kind of a bit of an incentive on what's going on. Now, when am I going to have all this stuff done? Again, there's really no timeline. Biggest thing is right now, if I do start to do the build, I really have to consider the fact that I'll need another vehicle. So with that said, I just wanted to show you guys this. No, they're not ported heads. They are stock heads, but they will be ported eventually. And that'll all be a surprise as to who's going to do it, and as well as, you know, maybe other things like, I don't know, the elusive bump stick that everybody loves to talk about. So we'll definitely talk about that here a little bit more as the year progresses, especially going into next year. But anyways, I'm going to wrap up down here, and then we'll go back upstairs and we'll talk about a second vehicle. So now that I'm back upstairs with all the pretty Christmas lights, we're going to go on ahead and talk about the possibility of buying a second vehicle. And this vehicle will end up becoming my new daily driver. Let me just kind of give you guys some ideas of what I've been kind of looking at. So in the past, I have owned a mid-sized sedan, and I've driven sedans before. They're not a big problem. I've driven SUVs. I've obviously driven trucks. I've even driven compact vehicles. Our family does own a couple of compact vehicles. Love them. They're not bad. They're great on gas. But I feel like for somebody my size, and for a lot of other people that I also know that just happen to be a similar size as me as well, you know, it's kind of difficult to use a compact car for something like that. But there is also the possibility that it doesn't necessarily have to be like a tiny car either. But the thing that I remember most about having a sedan is that it was always a pain in the butt to kind of put stuff in and get stuff packed in. And I remember putting a lot of dents and dings and scratches on that car, and it kind of just makes me a bit depressed to think about that now, because that was probably the one thing I didn't really like about the fact that I had a sedan. You know, just had to open the trunk all the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, the cargo space was great, but I always felt like I needed more, you know, room to put stuff. So, and I also thought here in probably the next 2 to 3 years, I know for a fact that I'm going to be moving. I'm going to get a house of my own. I plan on, you know, doing all that good stuff. But without getting too personal, I figure if I'm going to get a second vehicle, it's got to be something that's able to help me move in that time frame. And the other thing is that it's also got to be able to pick up things like car parts and, you know, the things, the usual stuff. Nothing too drastic though. Anything can be completely usable, but it has to, at the bare minimum, it has to be at least good on gas, relatively close to. It can still be around the 20 to 25 mile per gallon range, which is not a big deal. It doesn't bother me in the truck even. Granted, it does have a giant gas tank, but still, that doesn't bother me as much. Without trying to digress too much, because I know that's what I'm doing right now, basically what I have to think about is this. The car has to be good on gas mileage. It has to be a four-door of some flavor. Has to be fun to drive, and has to have a manual transmission. And the only reason I would even consider a manual transmission versus an automatic is simply because I've never really owned anything with a manual transmission. I mean, I've always wanted to drive stick. Granted, as you guys know, earlier this year we had the chance to bring the Jeep out, and that's a 3-speed manual transmission, but it's an old Jeep. It's not meant to be beat around anymore. You know, it's kind of our old antique, and we try to take at least somewhat decent care of it. I know we really have been kind of neglecting the poor old Jeep for some time, but we've at least got it running. We've got to the point where we're happy with it now, and we're just going to do little things. But anyways, discretion aside, I definitely, those are the things I've been considering. It has to be good on gas, has to have 4 doors, has to be fun to drive, and has to have a manual transmission. And as far as that kind of stuff is considered, the other little thing that's on top of that, so now we're adding a 5th thing in here, is it has to have good cargo space. Because I do plan to use this vehicle just like any other vehicle. I plan on carrying other things with it. So what really kind of led me down those 5, you know, I used those 5 things and I thought, okay, what am I going to get? What would be a logical choice to pick? And I said to myself, you know what? I think a hatchback sounds pretty cool. Certainly right now, a lot of hatchbacks do look really nice. They look sporty. But there's not too many that are, really fast or fun to drive. Biggest problem right now is like the Focus RS, overpriced. The Civic Type R, overpriced. The Subaru WRX STi, if you can find a reasonable hatch, that hasn't been beat to death, or things like that. You can still find them for a pretty good price. I'll say that much. You can still find them for a pretty decent price, but right now they're holding their value very well. But that is one of those kind of, it's like, I don't know, because it's even at being the last production car in 2014, which I really wish Subaru would come back around and do a WRX STi hatchback again. I think it would really sell, but that's just me. I don't know. I would definitely consider buying one brand new if they did make one. So anyways, considering all those things, I've looked into it. For what it's worth, I have looked at Civic hatchbacks. They're decently priced, and you can get them in a manual, you can get them in a sport. But the problem is they're lacking in power. They are lacking in power. They're only 174 or maybe 180 horsepower. Granted, yes, you can do bolt-ons and a tune, but again, there goes your warranty. So if I'm going to buy a brand new vehicle, it's got to be something that's good out of the box. But again, the problem is a lot of the stuff that's good out of the box happens to be about $35,000 or $40,000. So you're left in this kind of position where, okay, well, what do I do? So I started considering used vehicles. Now, granted, I do have other vehicles on mine, so if I could ever find a Civic Type R for a relatively decent price, considering the company I work for, I could potentially get something to maybe help with that, but I don't think they're gonna be very lenient about it right now, just because the Civic Type R is selling. But it's tough to say, the hype was there when they first came out, and I don't know if the overall hype has died now, because now, you got dealerships that are marking them up so incredibly high past MSRP. It's just ridiculous. So at this point, can you find a relatively nice used Civic Type R? I'm sure you could, and I know of the current issues that the Civic Type R is having. I do keep up on those kinds of things, but I've considered that also. I've considered a lot of stuff on the Honda lineup, definitely in that case, because Honda builds good stuff. Same story with Subaru, and I've also even considered things in the Chevy and even Ford. As well. I've looked at all the different cars in the hatchback lineup, and I'm just not really that incredibly enthused about much anything as far as new vehicles are concerned. There's one vehicle that I had really strongly considered that I thought, okay, it meets my criteria. It's got to be good on gas, and it's relatively good on gas. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's still pretty decent on gas. It's got 4 doors. It's fun to drive. It's a manual, and it's useful. And to give you guys a short of it, I've been looking at Subaru STIs. I think they're really good vehicles for what they are, and they obviously hold their value very well. Even some that are used and got a lot of miles on them, they're still holding value so well. And that's kind of the thing I've been looking at, is I really want one of those, because I think it would be a great fun daily driver that, with the right modifications to it, could still yield pretty decent gas mileage. Maybe not a whole lot, but the point of the matter is for something to not only be good on gas when you need it to be, but also be something you can go out and have a little bit of fun with. You don't necessarily have to push it to its limit, but just something you can go out and cruise on the back roads and be out there with your friends and have a good time. That's the kind of car I'd been really looking for. So I've been looking at some of those, but at the same time, I have been looking at things like the Civic Type R and Focus RS, but at the end of the day, I think what's more practical is either one of those two, the Civic Type R or a Subaru STi hatchback. And the thing about it is a lot of STi hatchbacks, being that they're used, a lot of them are starting to come out of warranty. So now, at least I think they are. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have a 10-year, 100,000 mile warranty. I don't really know for sure. I want you guys to give me some information on that if you guys know anything about that, because I would definitely take that into consideration on top of whatever else is out there. On top of that, I have a hard time thinking that Honda is going to do anything about the current markups with the Type R. So it kind of makes it look less and less pleasing to me. And I did actually have a chance to see a Type R in person. I was cruising around Indianapolis at one of the dealerships and just happened to find one and kind of looked it over. It was out in the middle of the night, so I couldn't really look it over. But one thing I did notice was the first thing that I knew I would have to do if I ever bought a Type R was get some reasonable wheels and tires for the winter, because those 20-inch wheels with rubber band wide tires are just not going to cut it, especially not around here. But anyways, these are the vehicles that I've kind of considered. I definitely have to consider a new vehicle, period. I have to consider something, because if the truck's going to be out for any length of time, I've got to have something else to drive, especially to and from work. So that's kind of the thing I'm really considering right now is what do I get? So that's kind of where I'm at. And the best thing about the differences between the Type R or even just a plain Jane Civic hatchback versus the STi or even a WRX. Granted, I know the WRXs are nice and the 5-speeds they're all right for what they are. I know a lot of the big things that people complain about with the STi versus the WRX is they feel like they're shifting more on the STi than they are the WRX. Also, at the same time, you have to be really careful with a WRX because, as most people do know, those transmissions can't hold power for anything. So, and I'm the kind of guy that I like to do modifications to anything, so I have to consider, hey, might have to beef up the transmission or have to go get a new transmission. And I've looked and seen what the prices are for that kind of stuff, and it's just outrageous. And I just don't know if I really want to pay that much out of the box right there, or if I should just go on ahead and go find an STi and get it done and over with, because it'll already be there. I can already do the stuff. And the one that I've actually been looking at already has a majority of the bolt-ons and stuff like that there. It's already been pro-tuned. It's a gorgeous car, but just kind of trying to get the finances in order first before I actually go and execute the whole thing. So chances are it's probably going to be gone by the time I try to go and get it. But you know what? The thought is out there, and I'll keep looking until then. So anyways, I just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on all that stuff. That's pretty much all the updates that I had. It's Christmas around here. We're having a good time. The truck's hit 75,000 miles, almost to 76. Still no problems. Still no issues. But always on the constant lookout, because that's what car guys do. They take care of their vehicles, or at least try to anyways, or at least wait until something breaks and then they're like, oh crap. Also, I wanted to update you guys on some of the stuff that is coming in for the truck. One of which, like I said, I'll show you when it gets here, but it's still probably about a week out before it gets here. And also wanted to show you guys the boxes in which the cylinder heads are sitting in. And like I said, they're just stock heads. They're nothing fantastic. They're not ported. There's no different springs or valves or anything like that. They're plain Jane 35,000 mile stock heads. So, and they're actually relatively clean for stock heads. So I was pretty pleased with being able to get them for what I did. But in any case, just wanted to give you guys all that information. So, with that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up, because I really do appreciate it. Also, if this is your first time stopping into the channel, please hit that subscribe button, because it means the world to me. Everything means the world to me. I really do appreciate you guys. And at the same time, I know we're getting close to 500 subscribers, and I know I really haven't said much about it, but I really have to thank you guys so much for the overall support of this channel. And you guys are going to be the OGs when this truck explodes. It's going to be great. Also, with that said, do not forget about that notification bell next to the subscribe button. make sure to hit that so you're not, you know, left out in the dark, because you don't want to be left out in the dark when all this stuff happens. You don't. I'm telling you right now, when you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because you do not want to be left out. I'm telling you that now. But with all that said, guys, hopefully you have a fantastic day and take it easy. And for those of you that are staying past the credits, thank you. Yesterday, an awesome package came that I didn't even know it was there. I was in the kitchen cleaning out some dishes, and for some reason I had the urge to walk to the back door of our house and look what was at that back door.